Radio Espial, Mick Rooney here, investigative journalist. Episode 33. You'll have seen from the thumbnails and the title, it's the Patricia Doherty case. I'm going to talk about that briefly just before we start going into the case summary and timeline. Firstly, housekeeping. I'm reminded not to call it house cleaning because Anna C thought I was going to start showing videos of me vacuum cleaning or doing the windows or something. I do enough of that in the normal run-of-the-mill days. Thank you. Shout out to some people. Yeah, Anna C, Mick D, Shane from Haunted Era collection. Yeah, just some of our recent subscribers. Thank you wholeheartedly for all your support. Please, when you comment about specific channel related stuff, like about what cases I do, that kind of thing, please can we keep that to the community pages feature, and you'll see that on the home page on the YouTube channel. It's called community, and do that there. That's where I announce what's forthcoming, what I'm working on, that kind of thing. It's better that we don't be doing that within the comments, and I've had a number of people commenting on whatever, and it's more about me rather than the cases, or my channel rather than the case itself. That's not what I do within the comment section when I cover a case. It strictly should be about the case. Okay, that's our housekeeping piece done. Patricia Doherty. Kieran will be with us shortly. I said you'll hear more from Kieran, and you're going to this evening because he's joining us again. Kieran McConnell, from Irish Cold Cases, the website, Ireland's Vanishing Triangle. He's going to be joining me. The usual thing, that I don't have to do it, but it just helps. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. There's things flashing up there. Yeah, let's just get that done with and move on. Patricia Doherty, age 29, was a prison officer at Mountjoy Prison in Dublin, Ireland. She had returned to her home in Tallaght, Dublin, just before 9 p.m. on the evening of the 23rd of December 1991, following a busy day of Christmas shopping. But that evening, on a last-minute spur-of-the-moment thought, she decided she wanted to get Santa hats for her two young children. Time maybe was of the essence. It was reported that she had a long work shift on Christmas Eve, and that the day of December 23rd was her last chance to have everything organised for her kids, her husband, on Christmas Day. She was spotted on December the 23rd at two locations, one near the Old Bawn Shopping Centre just before it closed, and another by a local pub called Bridget Burke's. But Patricia never returned home that evening, home being Tallaght, Dublin in Ireland. On Christmas Day, Patricia's husband, Paddy, formally reported his wife missing. The Irish police were able to find a witness who reported seeing Patricia at around 9:20 p.m. on the 23rd of December walking past Bridget Burke's pub towards the Old Bawn Shopping Centre. Then a second witness came forward stating that he also saw a woman matching Patricia's description getting into a red car at the entrance to the Old Bawn Shopping Centre. Sadly, on the 21st of June 1992, almost 6 months later, after her disappearance, James Kelly was cutting turf on the Dublin-Wicklow mountain border, an area known as the Featherbeds, and a turf bog known as Glassmucky Breaks. He was shocked to discover the clothed body of a woman just visible through collapsing soil on a bog bank. Over the following days, recovery and forensic examination would reveal the remains to be that of Patricia Doherty. Now, I found this case really difficult. I've recently, I don't know whether I might stick a card up here somewhere. I recently covered with Kieran, the Antoinette Smith case. And even that case, I thought, there hasn't been enough coverage on this case. And it was the reason why Kieran and I covered it. This case is even another level below that. And I'm staggered why it hasn't got the attention it has. I think there are reasons, and I'm not going to speak about all of those. You might glean some of that when we go through the case. But for now, I've got a video insert coming up just before Kieran comes in and introduces himself, and we get into the timeline. But first, please indulge me. This is, I think it's about 10 minutes long, this piece. If you want to skip it, it's fine. I respect that. When it starts, just jump forward 10 minutes and we're straight into the timeline with Kieran, and we'll move on with the timeline. But I do think there's value in this. This takes us through visually the locations that I'm going to speak about in this timeline. Because when I talk about locations, there's no point in me assuming you're from Tallaght, you're from Dublin, you're from Ireland. You could be from anywhere in the world. And when I feature cases like this, please understand, everybody else understand that I'm talking to an audience that might not be familiar with the area and the locations I'm talking about, whether it's an Irish case, a US case, a UK case, whatever. So we're going to do a mapping location piece. It's about 10 minutes long. It's going to effectively not just walk, but drive you through all the locations you're going to hear in the timeline we're going through. And then maybe it will, now I see where he's talking about. Okay, enough said. Location mapping piece, and then straight to timeline and Kieran. Map time. Primary case locations. We're going to start in the square, and we're going to move to where Patricia Doherty lived. Just very quickly, this is a 10-minute piece. If you're familiar with this area and you know the locations, that's fine. You can skip forward 10 minutes into this video and go back straight to the actual timeline and episode. But please remember, there are other viewers here, other subscribers who maybe are not familiar with Tallaght, are not familiar with Dublin, Ireland, or these locations we're talking about, and that's why we're doing this. So we're starting off at the very top, the Tallaght bypass, the square, and we're moving down into the area where Patricia lived, in a place called Allington Lawns. Don't worry, we're going to see this in visual. You're not just going to look at maps here. We're going to actually use Street View to see all the locations. But what I'm doing here is I'm just highlighting some of the landmarks, the areas, shops, GEA clubs, that kind of thing. And now as we move down, we're into the Dublin Wicklow Mountains, across to Killikee, into the Featherbeds area, and now we're here in the final resting location that Patricia Doherty's remains were found. Glassamuckey Breaks. I know it's an odd name, but that's what the place is called. It's total bogland, and you'll note, we'll come back to this shortly, you'll note there are two roads left and right of that. We'll talk about that more. Now, here's the real core of our visualization. From the Square Shopping Centre, which opened around, I believe it was late 1990, to where Patricia Doherty actually lived, Allington Lawns. And you'll quickly see here, she really didn't live too far away from the actual area. This is the Tallaght bypass, and we're moving up to the junction that turns off into the Old Bawn area, and as if you're going up to Fairhouse, and you can see it there, Old Bawn Fairhouse. And we'll just move down now to the actual junction. The people might say, why do I do this? I do it because when I go through the timeline and I talk about places, it's very difficult to visualize if I'm just talking in words or I'm talking to someone, whether it's Kieran or anybody. It's really important that you visualize this area. Always, as I say, this is the Old Bawn Road. Always, as I say, this is a visualization from 2023. This case was back in 1991, so 32 years ago. So bear in mind, some of the locations may have altered, changes. I did this in the Deirdre Jacob case. I think I did it in the Antoinette Smith case as well. But it just helps to put things in context, because I don't want to keep referring to this X or Y was this amount of kilometres away from another place. So we're heading down now off the Tallaght bypass towards an area called Old Bawn. This is one location. People in the area will be familiar with it. That's a Hearn's pub that doesn't play a part in this actual case, but it's a landmark. And now we're really getting into the Ballycrag and Fairhouse areas along the Old Bawn Road. This is one of the most significant locations for this case you're looking at. To the right, you're looking at what is now a pub called the Old Mill. Don't be betrayed by that idea of the Old Mill. It's actually a relatively new pub in the last 20 years or so, but it was the site of the original Bridget Burke's, which is going to be referred to in this case. We're now moving and swinging to the left, and you can see pretty much almost opposite the Bridget Burke's location is what's called the Old Bawn Shopping Centre that you're going to hear me refer to. We're now going to move down, and we're getting closer to where Patricia Doherty actually lived. We're going to turn right here at this junction, and we're moving on to, I believe this road is called the Bornabrina Road. I'm familiar with this road. In fact, I'm familiar with many areas here because I not only lived but I worked in areas around these locations back in the late 1990s and early 2000s. I actually used to go up and play pitch and putt in a golf club further up this road. Back then in 1991, this place wasn't like this. Really, only these houses started to be built in around the 1980s, mid towards the late 1980s. So as we move on, we're getting to the access road. This is probably a road that Patricia would have walked along had she have went to the square back to Allington Lawn. It's quite likely she walked this road the day she went missing. So this is there's a number of roads with using that name. Allington Road, Allington Avenue, Allington Drive, Allington Park, you can see there. And what we're looking for is where Patricia lived, and that's Allington Lawns, and we're into it now. I'm not going to show the house for obvious reasons, but this is the general. This is where Patricia lived with her husband Paddy and her 2 young children. This is Glassmucky Breaks. This is where Patricia Doherty's remains were found. And you can see, not unlike the Antoinette Smith case where her body was found, we're in bogland. This is a desolate area. This ain't no suburban, lamps on the streets, street lights. Imagine this place in the dark. The only light you would see is the faint light of houses in the far distance in the lower areas from Tallaght and Dublin and places like Clondalkin, Walkinstown. This is not a place you want to be in pitch black, because that's what it is like at night. Look at that terrain. That's not terrain in the pitch black you can just stroll off the road along getting there and just walk in a straight line or think you can walk anywhere. You'd break out, you do serious injury to yourself if you try to walk this area at night. So you can imagine the idea. This is the Cunard Road, this is known as. The opposite road on the other side, I think it's known as the Calais Road. So we're to the left of the Glassmucky Breaks. The opposite side is the Killalay entrance road. And there's, as you just passed there, there's a few stop-off points, kind of where a car can pull in. Look at that road. That's not a national road. It's not a motorway. That's a laneway. So cars can barely pass both ways. So imagine someone who's abducted a person and trying to get to a place to deposit a body, and the difficulty, either day or night. Remember, Patricia's body was found in the Glassmucky Breaks on the bogland by James Kelly, several hundred feet away from the road. This road is a little bit better, the R115, because at least you've got left and right and clearly defined lanes on the road. But again, just look at the terrain. This is what you're dealing with. And remember, on that evening of December, it was wet, dark, and cold. Let's get back to our timeline. Delighted to say Kieran is back with us now. Kieran, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, how's it going? My name's Kieran McConnell. I was on actually the last show with Mick. We did an episode about Antoinette Smith, and it was great to be here last time, and I think it went well. So hopefully it'll go well again. And well, basically on the cases, I started writing about them, and I built a website called Ireland's vanishingtriangle.com, and I've done a podcast and set up a Facebook group, and there's an email kind of update thing as well. On like all the links are on the website, so if you just Google Ireland's Vanishing Triangle, it should come up. And then on the case tonight, the Patricia Doherty case, I first read about it probably about 10-15 years ago, and read 2 books that covered the case, and that's about it. There's like very little reports on the case, and it's a very difficult case kind of to work out, and just not a lot of info to go on really. So hopefully we can come up with something.
Yeah, well, and that's really all we do when we try to explore these cases. Just as an offset, and just for subscribers and general viewers, can you remember, was Barry Cummins one of the books that you read? I think was it?
It was actually Sarah McInerney.
Sarah McInerney, yeah.
Called, yeah. It actually has the title is Where No One Can Hear You Scream.
Scream, yeah.
Great title, yeah. And then Alan Bailey in his book Missing Presumed, he did a few pages on it.
He's an ex-Garda detective, senior Garda detective. Yeah. Okay, listen. People know the case. We've done the virtual tour of the locations. Let's do what we hope we do best for the viewers. Let's take them through the timeline. And as always, when we do this, We're doing it day by day, so you get an idea. Okay?
Yeah.
So, let's go. We've done the brief summary. Okay, so our case takes us back to Monday, the 23rd of December 1991. Patricia, aged 29, lived with her husband, Paddy Doherty. Now, I think he's generally commonly referred to as Paddy, obviously formerly Patrick Doherty. So if I refer to him in both senses, you'll understand why in this case. It's just a slip of the tongue, but generally he was known to family, friends, work colleagues as Paddy. Paddy Doherty and their 2 young children, a boy and a girl, Gerard 9 years of age and Kelly 7 years of age. They lived on Allenton Lawns in Tallaght, Dublin. Patricia had spent some years working locally as a secretary at the same school that her young children attended. That was Ballycrag National Primary School. I believe that's now called, it's kind of had a name change. I believe it's called now the Holy Rosary Primary School now. In the past year, she had switched careers and retrained in Portlaoise as a prison officer. For the past 6 months, she worked in Mountjoy Prison in Dublin. The couple met on the number 15 bus route where Paddy was working at the time as a bus conductor during the 1980s. He too had changed jobs and now worked in a factory. This is 1991. Patricia was originally from Littleton, County Kerry, and Paddy was originally from Ballybuffet in County Donegal. Like many young couples in the 1980s, they'd moved to Tallaght to raise a family. Patricia was well known in the area and described by family, friends and neighbours as vivacious and outgoing. Patricia spent most of the day from the morning until late afternoon making final plans for Christmas, buying gifts in the Square Shopping Centre and Old Bawn Shopping Centre. She also attended a hair salon and had her hair cut quite short from her normal 1980s perm. Just over a year opened, the Square Shopping Centre soon became the fulcrum for the residents of Tallaght communities, no longer relying on isolated corner shops or having to make longer journeys into nearby Rathfarnham or Dublin city centre. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to take a quick insert. This is just to give you, I've done the mapping of the area and the locations. You obviously appreciate that was from 2023, but what we're going to see now is Tallaght of its time, the Square opening. I believe this was around late 1990. So let's just take and get a flavour and a sense of the area at that time.
Tallaght, with a population of around 80,000, has long needed a shopping centre. Now they're about to get the biggest in the country. This evening, over 500 representatives from Tallaght visited the centre for a guided tour. The centre is over 700,000 square feet of retailing. It has parking for 2,000 cars and Dublin Bus will run services to the centre. There'll also be a 12-screen cinema.
To me, and I'm sure to a lot of people in Tallaght, it will make all the difference in the world. It's just going to be about everything here, and I'm particularly happy with the cinema situation, which I've young children and they travel into town a lot to the films, so I'd be quite happy with this when the cinema opens up. The rest of the place, well, I mean, you just won't have to go to town anymore. You won't even have to go back to Tallaght Village anymore.
Another visitor was local Workers' Party TD Pat Rabbit, who said that while the centre would have a tremendous impact on jobs and facilities, the lack of municipal buildings meant that Tallaght still did not have a town centre. 90,000 people live within 5 minutes drive of the centre, 500,000 within 20. However, the developers say the centre will not be detrimental to established shopping areas.
Well, we don't believe so. We believe that the two should complement each other, and we would expect people from Dublin Centre to come out here because it's so nice. But we still expect some people who really like to go to Grafton Street and Henry Street, particularly young people that enjoy that, to continue doing that.
So you don't see it as posing any danger to Dublin City
No,
Centre?
we believe it's complementary.
You've seen that, and you've got a real sense of the area of Tallaght and the locations we're going to speak about. So I'm now going to take you to that day that Patricia disappeared. We're at 11 a.m. to 4:15 p.m. I want to qualify with this case. This was a difficult case. Previous cases that I've done, I've been able to produce a much more accurate timeline, literally sometimes down to the minute. With this case, we're dealing with wider windows of time. Okay, so please bear in mind when I work through that. So 11 a.m. to 4:15 p.m, Patricia spends most of the day at the Tallaght Square Shopping Centre. During this time, she visits the Peter Mark hair salon and has her hair cut short. Around 4:15 to 4:30 p.m. in the afternoon, she leaves the shopping centre and heads home. Now, we don't know exactly the purchases that she bought there, how laden down she was. We're not certain whether she walked home or whether she got a bus from the square down to her home, but really there isn't practically much buses that take her down to Allington Lawns, so I'm reasonably sure that she simply walked from the area. Now around 6 to 8:30 p.m, during this time window, Patricia leaves her house again for some last minute shopping before the shops close that evening. By then, it's quite dark, it's cold, and I checked the weather on that day and the evening. It was raining quite persistently, and more so during the evening. Her husband is now at home from work with their 2 young children. From eyewitness reports, it is believed that during the time window, Patricia returned again to the Square Shopping Centre. So some of these details are uncertain, but around 9 p.m, either shortly before or shortly after, and we're talking about minutes here, she's spotted by an eyewitness outside her local Londis supermarket at the Old Bawn Shopping Centre. Another eyewitness states that a short time after 9 p.m, Patricia helped her with her children and buggy get on the number 49 bus departing the square. So I just want to reflect on that. 2 eyewitnesses, but you see we have an immediate conflict there. She appears to be in 2 separate places. At one situation, she's getting on the number 49 bus departing the square, helping a lady with her young children, probably very much identifying with her, you know, she's got young children. But she's also spotted by another eyewitness outside our local Londis. So we need to be careful about eyewitnesses. Maybe the Londis supermarket sighting was actually a little bit after 9 o'clock, and the number 49 sighting with her helping another woman with children to get on a bus was slightly before, which would fall into the window because the Old Bawn Shopping Centre isn't that far away. It's literally 5-6 minutes on a bus, even with busy traffic. It's not very far. And then you would wonder, did she really need to get a bus? But hey, maybe she was carrying shopping or carrying bags and it just was more practical. So that would fit into the window. So I think that's where...
Can I just ask?
Sure.
Just ask one thing. With the woman on the bus, like, she was definitely on the bus. Like, it wasn't that she was walking by and the woman was getting off and she helped her with
the eyewitness says she actually physically helped her. I believe it was with a buggy to get on the bus.
Okay.
So the woman herself was getting on the bus. But you're right to bring that up. We don't... Maybe she was passing and saw this woman struggling with a buggy and 2 kids or a child and thought, just, you know, I'll give her a hand. But Patricia, didn't actually get on the bus because she thought, I'm only going 5 minutes, 6 minutes walk down the road. So
the type of thing you'd only jump on the bus if it was there.
Kind of thing. You know, rather than wait 5 or 10 minutes for a bus. Now, in fairness, I think I said 5 or 6 minutes. I'm thinking of sure, for God's sake, I've done the location mapping. No, in fairness, it's a little bit longer than that. It would be from the square. If you literally walked out of the square at that time, you've got to walk right down the Old Bawn Road.
Okay.
Yeah. You're probably, I think, more realistically 20 minutes. But would you wait? Maybe it was raining heavily. I don't know. But
Well,
you're
sure,
right.
yeah.
You're right to mention that. We're not absolutely certain she got on that number 49 bus and travelled home that way. She could have walked. But
Yeah.
for our timeline, that would start to widen the window of sightings, and we're about to talk about a sighting shortly after at 9:23. So maybe she did get on that bus, because if the 9:23 eyewitness report is correct, there ain't no way you could have walked that distance from the square
Yeah.
to there. So yeah, the
Fair
it's a
point,
good
yeah.
point. The likelihood is she probably did actually get on that 49 bus.
So,
And in reference to that, 9:23 p.m, another sighting of Patricia heading from the Bonabrina Road towards Bridget Burke's pub. This one puzzled me a little bit, because the Bonabrina Road, if you note from my location sort of virtual tour, the Bonabrina Road is towards the direction of Allington Lawns and Allington Avenue and Drive, that estate. So if she was walking from Bonabrina Road towards Bridget Burke's pub, it's like, hang on a second, she's walking back, not from the square location, she's walking from her home to Bridget Burke's pub at the corner, and then maybe up towards the Old Bawn Shopping Centre.
okay.
So there's an issue there as to when exactly she left the square and when exactly she got back home and headed back out again for the final time. And I can't tie that together, because again, we've got things that seem to conflict with other things in the timeline. But I can't resolve those. I can only report them. They are what they are. The last sighting, unconfirmed, is of a man seeing a woman matching Patricia's description getting into a red car at the entrance to Old Bawn Shopping Centre. So that would be literally opposite to Bridget Burke's, just a tiny bit up from it. Now, we're going to move on to the following day, Tuesday the 24th of December 1991. Patricia does not attend work that day. That's all I'm going to say about that. However, her husband Paddy believes she's been called in to do a shift there. I do not know the reasons why Paddy believed that. That's all I can say. Due to the couple's work patterns, it is not unusual for them to see much of each other over some of the days when they're working. But they have firm arrangements for Christmas Day to spend that evening with the kids at Patricia's mother's house in nearby Rathfarnham. Okay, Rathfarnham is not that far away. We're on to the following day. This is Christmas Day, Wednesday the 25th of December. Patricia has still not returned home. Her husband Paddy begins phoning family and friends. When he arrives to meet her at her mother's house in Rathfarnham, Dublin, that Christmas evening, as they had previously arranged, expecting her to be there, of course, he realises something's up here. She's not here. He contacts Mountjoy Prison, where she worked, and soon learns that she'd not been into work for the past 2 days. He contacts Irish police, the Gardaí, and reports her missing. Now, I think I referenced this later, but I just want to qualify that I'm not privy to that conversation that Patrick had with whoever he spoke to in Mountjoy Prison. I do not know whether they said to him, yeah, she had a shift here, we expected her in, she hasn't been here for 2 days, we don't know what's going on, or whether they simply told him, Patricia? No, Patricia hasn't been here for a couple of days, meaning we weren't expecting her to be here for the last couple of days. I don't know that. None of us know that.
Well, sorry, Mick. If she didn't show up for a shift, say on Christmas Eve or whatever, they would have rang her house, right? To see where she was.
I talk about this later, about the landline and the phone.
Sorry.
So I am gonna refer. This is where we start to dig in and explore many questions that arise here. Why wasn't, essentially what you're suggesting, why wasn't, if she was due a shift in work and didn't turn up, and then another day passed, why wasn't there some alarm raised, not just with Paddy and his family household, but with people in her work? I don't know. I don't have the answer, but we'll talk about that shortly. So on Thursday, so we're now on the Stevens Day, Boxing Day for other people, a formal missing person file is opened by Gardaí, but a significant amount of time has been lost. The investigation is also slow to start due to the Christmas holiday period and staffing availability. Interviews are conducted with Patricia's husband, Paddy Doherty, her family and friends, as well as work colleagues at Mountjoy Prison. Initially, senior investigative detectives are very suspicious of Paddy Doherty's account and delay in reporting her missing at such a critical family holiday time, understandably. In the subsequent days, every eyewitness statement of his wife's movements and his own alibi and movements appear to corroborate his account of events over the past 3 days. He participates in some early radio and TV appeals with Gardaí for information leading to his wife's whereabouts. Kieran, is there anything you want to add to that?
Just yeah, you know, the radio show thing. I actually I read that after he made the radio appeal, he got a few like silent phone calls to his house.
Yeah, which may have thought, should I be doing any more media stuff on this? You know, or have I got cranks out there who are just gonna complicate this investigation? I don't know, but yeah, it's worth mentioning.
Because he didn't do really any media after that. That was
no, he soon seemed to stop doing heavy media work after the first year. So December to January 1992. So obviously it was Christmas. We're into the following year, but we're just about a month or so after. The police investigation team seemed to have exhausted all leads. While Patricia Doherty was well liked by friends and work colleagues, few people can offer any information of any case substance. The police are certain that Patricia was within her locale up until around 9 to 9:30 p.m. on December the 23rd, day of her going missing. But for the scant few eyewitness reports, no real leads develop, and investigators privately are frustrated and feel they're somewhat up against a stone wall. Now the more difficult aspect of this case. On Sunday, June the 21st, 1992, at around 3:20 p.m. on that date, almost 6 months after Patricia Doherty had disappeared from her Tallaght locale, James Kelly is out with his dog cutting turf on the Dublin-Wicklow mountain border. It's an area known as the Featherbeds, but a very specific bog area known as Glassmucky Breaks. His dog draws his attention to something on the turf ground nearby. He goes over to where the dog is and immediately sees some disturbing things. A pair of ladies' shoes and brown clothing protracting through some soil. He himself actually spent years working in graveyards for the National Museum of Ireland. He knows what he's looking at. The clothed body of a woman just visible under collapsing soil on his bog bank. The same area of the bog bank he had dug a drainage channel months back. The warm, dry spell had revealed its secrets. This, I don't know whether this is the Killilea Road or the road on the opposite side to the left, but both roads are very similar. You can see they're extremely, extremely narrow roads. I mean, you can't get two cars passing one by the other there. This is not a place you want to be in poor weather or at night if you're struggling with something or for whatever reason. It's very inhospitable. Over the following days, recovery and forensic examination would indeed reveal the remains to be that of Patricia Doherty. These were identified as Patricia's by the Gardaí through dental records, jewellery and clothing found on her remains. Patricia was still wearing her distinctive khaki-coloured Macintosh full-length coat. A key is also located at the shallow burial grave. It is Patricia's front door key from her home in Allington Lawns in Tallaght. It was concluded that Patricia was most likely strangled because there was no signs of trauma. She was murdered and raped. What you're seeing now is an image. It's actually from a newspaper clipping back, I believe this was the first really full reconstruction that was done. There was a couple of reconstructions done. This was the first one, and this was pretty much around the time when her body was discovered. The woman you see in the photograph, you'll forgive the quality of image, it is a press cutting from archives, she's actually a work colleague of Patricia from Mountjoy Prison. She's a prison officer herself. The only remark I'd make about this reconstruction that they did, and it was more practically for the locals to jog their memories, the only remark I'd make on this, and I don't mean it as a criticism, but it's kind of like, we know she got her hair cut quite short that day, so this image of a woman with quite long wavy black hair is not really going to reflect how Patricia looked. In fact, if you look at the smaller image in the top right corner, that's actually closer to Patricia as she looked on the day and later that afternoon, because we know she was in Petermark getting her hair cut. So in jogging people's memory, that's the image of a woman in a long Macintosh coat that's going to jog memories, not necessarily a woman who maybe looked similar but had long hair. So yeah, it's just it's an irking detail that I think for a reconstruction and the expense of going to a reconstruction should have been got right. This is just a general area of the bog area, the Glassmucky bog area, and you can see this place a death trap, excuse the phrase, but you know, you're wandering anywhere there in daylight. You've got bog, soft ground, hard ground, you've got heavy bush, grassery, ditches, you've got mounds, rocks, boulders. You know, this is you've got water, sinking areas. This is not an area that you just wander casually into for a stroll or a walk. This is heavy hitchhiking area, heavy hiking area, should I say. Now, just 1.2 kilometres up the same road, cutting through this bogland, again a short distance from this road, in 1988, the body of Antoinette Smith had been found. In fact, the case body deposition is remarkably similar, frighteningly similar, in fact. Just some case points on that and the comparisons. You've got a shallow body, a bog grave, clothing and jewellery left at a shallow burial site, similar victim age and looks, deposition burial sites close in proximity, strangulation, asphyxiation, likely causes of death, similar background, social class and home locale, similar build and height, night abduction and murder, deposition sites several hundred feet in from the access road, circumstance and site deposition requiring transport and likely more than one perpetrator. Could it be done with one perpetrator? Certainly, but it seems more likely it required more than one person. You try carrying a body across that in the depths of night and secrecy from a vehicle, which is what you would need, let alone walking it on your own, but carrying a body to bury it somewhere. I mean, think about it. We also have a missing handbag, carry bag in both cases. We've got a delay and an initial 48 to 72 hour delay reporting before the search got going, and death likely soon after the abduction. Kieran, do you want to come in on that there?
Yeah, just like great points there about the case similarities. Like, I was just kind of wondering, you know, the way she went missing on the 23rd. So say someone like murdered her on the 24th or 25th, it would kind of be the ideal day for them to drive someone to the mountains.
Yeah, quiet.
No,
Nobody. Yeah, it's a possibility it was done in daylight, and certainly, if you put your, God forbid, yourself in that position that somebody finds that they've murdered somebody and raped them, and you want to deposit the body, let's be blunt, get rid of the body. Are you going to drive up in the middle of the night? You think, well, okay, this is the secrecy of the night. You'd need to be taking torches. You'd need to know the lay of the land. You'd need to know every rock and cranny of that land. And I don't even think it's physically possible for one person to do that. I think you would need torches. You would need an extreme knowledge, survival technique of the area.
Like, especially like in the middle of December and it's raining, like how wet would the bog be?
How unstable is it? You do yourself an injury, and then worse, do yourself an injury where you are so much injured you can't get out of there, and then you're copped. You're stunned.
You're screwed.
You're copped.
Yeah.
So, and of course, remember, as we always say with these historic cold cases, remember, we're in an era where there ain't mobile phones or anything like that. So you're not just going out to a desolate place, but something happens. It's not phone mammy or phone the police. There ain't nobody to phone unless you are mobile. Obviously, this is a difficult image. This is Paddy Doherty with his two young kids. And this was obviously the funeral. I believe it took place about 10 days to 2 weeks after Patricia's body was found. We're moving into that wide period now between 93 and 2023. I mean, effectively across a 30-year period. Once Patricia's body was recovered, the case quickly moved to a murder investigation. Numerous appeals have followed over the years, but no one has ever been arrested or convicted of Patricia Doherty's murder. While unsolved, Patricia Doherty's case remains under review by the Gardaí Serious Case Review. It's referred to as the GSCR unit. And also there are additional independent cold case review teams set up, often using former experienced detectives, forensic experts, and they're brought together to review cases. They are and they review multiple cases, and they make recommendations back to the GSCR or effectively the Gardaí senior squad looking after that case, the sort of the proverbial boots on the ground, who are going to do the follow-ups. So they are now being re-examined in light of advances in DNA technology and specialised database analysing information on violent crimes. The Gardaí have their own databases. They've got international databases they have access to from organisations like Scotland Yard, Interpol. They also have their own inbuilt everything from the basic pulse system into I think it's called the VICAS system, which is more a profiling system which pulls in cases that might have a similarity. And we've just mentioned the Antoinette Smith case. By God, I'd say the VICAS system was screaming alarm bells when it pulled in that case and said, hey, you need to take a look at these two cases together because there's a hell of a lot of similarities.
Mick, sorry, can I just ask one thing? Are you aware, these genealogy sites that people do for their family history?
Yeah, it's quite popular now.
Yeah, are the guards allowed to check them? Like compare DNA samples on these sites? What's the law in Ireland on that, I wonder? So now, in the Golden State Killer case, the detective done that. That's how he caught him.
Yes, I can't speak for all of them. Some of those DNA sites, obviously, your DNA, when you have to do a sample, you get sent it, isn't it? The way it works.
Yeah, a little kit or something.
Sister probably knows more about this because she works in this area of ancestry, and the way I think it works is you register and apply, you get sent a DNA tester kit, you send it off, and then they send you back the report. Now, it's a brief general report, but it'll tell you, how Irish are you, how American are you, your ancestry. And it will also suggest links and people that you may be related to or distantly related to throughout the world. Obviously, details of the DNA sample itself can't be made public on these websites, but I do believe links will be suggested to you. Obviously there's a data privacy thing, but specific details about the DNA medically wouldn't be on the sites, but the links to who you might be related to will be maybe shared with you through your profile, and I suppose you decide whether you want to share that information or not. I think that's the way they actually work. Would the Gardaí, I suppose it's like anything, if the Gardaí want to check information on data, communications information on a phone, on usage of the internet, usage of social media, and indeed, as you suggest, ancestry sites, yeah, they can go to a judge and say, can you raise a search warrant for that, and they'll present it to whoever, Instagram or Facebook or an ancestry site, and say, we want access to that data. This is a criminal investigation. So yeah, I would say in a legal sense, provided a judge can be convinced there is evidence, providence to lead to me granting a warrant to get access to that data, then yes.
Okay, it's interesting.
Let's get to our conclusions and analysis. Even the similar cases of Antoinette Smith have received more media attention than the case of Patricia Doherty. That's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Every family deals with cases like these in their own way. Some choose to relentlessly use the media to continue public appeals for information. In this case, appeals were very sporadic over the advancing years. There was a national RTE Crimeline TV reconstruction appeal in 1992, but even that contained very loose timelines and details that were not entirely accurate, as you will see from the above timeline we went through. In 2013, a cracking crime cold cases documentary was made by RTE, but that is no longer available, and barring a neighbour, Anne Macaulay, who had some acquaintance with Patricia, no family member participated in the production beyond the use of a previous RTE 2FM radio interview featuring Paddy Doherty as part of the renewed Gardaí case appeal. Now here's some of our considerations in this case. For the checklist I went through above, remember I talked about the deposition side, I talked about clothing, things like that. For the checklist I've explained above, it's incredibly hard not to discuss any scenarios or considerations of the case of Patricia Doherty without referencing the Antoinette Smith case we covered here a couple of weeks ago on Radio Espial. And there's at least one other case that I'm aware of, Kieran may be aware of others, that also bear striking similarities to these cases. Kieran, remind me, there is one other case. Is it the Kilmartin case?
Yeah, Marie Kilmartin.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't found in the Dublin Wicklow Mountains,
yeah.
But she was found in a bog in like Laois, in the place called Mount Mellick.
Yeah.
And she was like, I think 35 years of age, short hair, kind of, and found in the bog, yeah.
Yeah, and of course,
what's December 93, I think she went missing.
What's interesting about that case that I discovered is Patricia Doherty retrained as a prison officer and was based for a period of months in Portlaoise area.
Yeah.
So is there some connection there? I don't know. I'm just surmising. I don't know. But it's again, this is the things that we look at with a case. But let's let's just take a step back for the moment and try and eliminate other possibilities in this case of Patricia Doherty. We know from the human remains that Patricia unfortunately was raped and murdered. State pathologist John Harbison confirmed that. Again, she didn't just go up there into the mountains, walk up there on a whim 5 kilometres away for a walk on a late wet Monday evening. There was no evidence she was about to perform a missing person disappearing act. We know she died lightly on December the 23rd or within hours of the following morning. Is it possible she was held captive somewhere? Well, it's possible, but it's less likely. You don't rape yourself and bury your body in a shallow grave. There was somebody involved in this. There was a third party. One or more people. Was it opportunistic? Was that third party known to Patricia? Perhaps a bit of both. The fact that Patricia was raped and jewellery found on her body doesn't support a random and opportunistic, say she was mugged in the street, the perpetrator panicked, dragged her into a car. It doesn't work. I don't believe someone known or unknown to Patricia woke up on December the 23rd and just decided they were going to rape and murder her. Or anybody else. I don't believe she was specifically targeted, nor do I believe that husband Paddy Doherty, had anything to do with this. And that's despite my own reservations about the real nature and health of their relationship and what family dynamics were going on between them. These are difficult things. I'm trying not to be judgmental. But it's very clear Patricia's children, Jared and Kelly, were the centre of her world. Her whole day was centred around family and Christmas. Yet, she wasn't there for it. And the question is, but why wasn't she there for it? Both Patricia and Paddy juggle kids, family life, erratic working patterns that brings its own stresses and strains. I'm not here to judge anyone's relationship. I've gone through difficult relationships personally myself. But it's still critical to be able to include or eliminate what is plausible and what is not plausible. One thing I've learned in this case is that by revisiting all case files I've gathered and Patricia's known activities that day, the presented timeline has been somewhat skewed and sketchy as presented by the media. The perception is that Patricia dashed out at the last minute around 9 p.m. sometime to buy Santa hats. But that's not quite what happened. It's now clear that she'd been back and forth to her home at Allington Lawns a number of times that day. At the very least, twice. Most likely loaded up with shopping bags, walking and busing it back and forward all day. There are major gaps in this timeline. Far too much uncertainty created. This was the day before Christmas Eve, the Monday of her disappearance. Christmas Eve being the Tuesday. To make any absolute conclusions, I'd like to know the following, and as yet we don't. If school was out from Ballycrag, and I would imagine it was, these were primary school kids, who...
It was definitely on the 23rd. They would have closed on the Friday.
Yeah, exactly. Who was minding the two young kids, aged 9 and 7 that day? What exact hours was Paddy Doherty working in his factory job that day? Patricia isn't going to leave two kids at home alone that evening. Paddy has stated already to police that he was at home with the kids. Despite efforts concluding this timeline, I've never seen any source qualifying who exactly claimed she was heading back out to buy Santa hats and where the story emanated from. Why did she later return to the square in the evening after having a new haircut and she's in the rain? I now believe that details and reasons for Patricia's movements she did that evening are being conflated with activities she did earlier that day and evening. I've yet to obtain data on what actual shifts Patricia had in Mountjoy Prison over the Christmas period, beyond it being reported by media that she only had one long shift to do. Paddy Doherty in interviews stated that he presumed Patricia had been called to do a stint on Christmas Eve. Was Patricia scheduled for a shift on Christmas Eve? If Patricia worked very flexible hours on call at the prison, how was that request to turn in for work communicated to her? Remember, we're in an era of no mobile phones. I can only presume in an era of no mobile phones, it was done via the house landline phone. I'm going to presume that a competent investigation team and subsequent the Garda Serious Case Review Unit, as well as the cold case teams, have obtained call logs from the house landline phone. They could do it in the Annie McCarrick case. They've done it in numerous other cases back in that era. have they done it in this era and this case? As presented, it seems to me that Patricia, on a busy December 23rd, knew well she had to work Christmas Eve for long hours. Paddy stated that he was expecting to see her sometime Christmas afternoon, evening in Rathfarnham at her mum's house. Why were that arrangement made if he did not know and she did not know she wasn't going to be working? That suggests to me the arrangement was he knew, she knew she was going to be working over the Christmas period, and therefore they had to make this arrangement to be at our mum's house and coalesce together in Rathfarnham on the evening of December the 25th. That's glaringly obvious now from this case. So there had to be some conversation around what parent was not available, not working, and what the circumstances leading Paddy to not question her absence throughout December the 24th. Was it common for Patricia to be at work for more than a 24-hour period? I'm very circumspect on the presented motive, the Santa hats, which resulted in Patricia leaving the home up to or sometime around 8:30. That's that 6 p.m. to 8:30 window, which is very shady. A wretched wet winter night, children to get to bed, but she's seen at 2 meeting points outside Old Bawn Shopping Centre, the Londa supermarket, and also outside the nearby Bridget Burke's pub at a bus stop at 9 p.m. We don't know whether she got on that bus, but she was close to the bus stop when witnessed. This does not sound like someone who knows they have to be available for a prison shift over the next 24 to 36 hours into Christmas Day. Quite the contrary. Paddy Doherty confirmed that he phoned Mountjoy Prison on December the 25th after a no-show by Patricia in Rathfarnham, the mother's house, and that they told him, the staff from the Mountjoy Prison, they had not seen Patricia in 2 days. At any evidence level, nowhere can I find Mountjoy Prison ever claiming, at least through the media or in any files I've seen, that she was expected for shift but a no-show. Rather, they simply reported to Paddy that she was not working with them during those 2 days and they hadn't seen her. I'm left to conclude that Patricia was out of the home after 9 p.m. on December the 23rd for some other reason beyond just buying Santa hats. I don't buy the hat story, considering she never came home. I cannot discount the possibility that Patricia Doherty had arranged to meet someone else that evening at a meeting point between the Square Shopping Centre, Old Bawn Shopping Centre, or at Bridget Burke's pub. There was a bus stop directly outside the pub. We can't rule out the possibility that Patricia boarded a bus or was picked up in a car and travelled somewhere else later that evening, and whether initially planned or not, or she accidentally met someone she knew while out in the locale. I would suggest that the probability or combination of the above is extremely high, and whomever Patricia was in company with later that evening was someone she knew casually or knew somewhat, but she trusted them. Of course, a forced roadside abduction, by a passing stranger cannot be ruled out entirely, obviously into a vehicle. But we're missing 2 crucial aspects to this occurrence. No such abduction was reported by any witness in public. And state pathologist John Harbison confirmed Patricia's body showed no signs of trauma or defensive wounds consistent with some form of struggle or violent struggle. There's elements to this case that do not add up under investigative scrutiny. Where is Patricia Doherty's handbag? Where's her purse? Where's her personal items within it? The only personal items we know of is the jewellery she wore that were found that helped to identify her. The clothing she had. Where's all her other personal items she would have had that evening? Someone needs to come forward and be honest with the information they have. And that may mean breaching confidences after nearly 32 years. Kieran, your final thoughts?
Yeah, great work, Mick. It was really great detail. I just a few things actually. Just the last thing you just said there, like the no defensive wounds. That's quite strange, right?
Yeah.
Like, would that imply that it was someone that she knew and they just ambushed her type of thing?
I would
You can
be tending towards
speculate.
that. And also, it goes back to, I think, what we discussed and kind of generally agreed with regarding the Antoinette Smith case, that she was not alive when she was brought to that bog.
No,
neither Patricia was alive, neither Antoinette was alive when they were brought to that bog and deposited there. Their remains sadly deposited there. They weren't alive at that point.
No, but especially when you consider the terrain of the bog, like,
Yeah.
you know, it's been on top of just being highly unlikely. Yeah, so someone with a car
and no heavy defensive wounds, again, always has a tendency to suggest whatever happened, there existed some degree of casualness or trust with the perpetrator. In other words, they were known to them in some way, casually or very well known to them.
Because I'd like to know more about the car. Like, did she get into the back of the car? What model was it? Like, did it pull up on the road beside her?
We've known. I know. Was it the Deirdre Jacob case? I know there's lots more detail about cars and vehicles that were identified there, but we don't have that in. We don't have that in this case, and again, and please understand, I've already stated I don't believe Paddy Doherty is involved in this case. I think we've got a number of sketchy details about the exact whole family affair. I'm not going to judge that or go into that, but
no, you can never know them things.
Yeah, I still want to ask the question. Okay, to eliminate him, what kind of car did he have? What colour car did he have? You know, did he have a car? We know that Patricia, my understanding is she didn't have a car. She pretty much walked and bussed around.
Yes, I was actually wondering that when you were going through her day. She mustn't have had a car.
No, she didn't have a car. No, she was using.
How did you get to Mountjoy Prison then from Tallaght? That's the bus. Yeah?
One would presume either the husband, and then you would say if the husband dropped her into work, is he going to drive all the way back out to where he? So I presume she's bussing it into work.
Yeah, and do you remember there was actually some speculation that it could have been someone like a prisoner in the prison she worked in or whatever.
Well,
but to me, if it was a prisoner, right, or a gangster or whatever, say she crossed, they would have done a hit on her, right? They would have shot her. They wouldn't go to the lengths of moving her body up the mountains and all that stuff. Like, you know, say she pissed off some gangster in prison and he puts out on her.
You can't discount
that. It could be personal. Like
it could be personal, but all intents and purposes, generally your colleagues say she got on really well. She was liked. She wasn't.
And with the inmates as well.
Yeah, with the inmates, she wasn't in any way, you know. And then, you know, she was only in at least Mountjoy for, I think it was less than 6 months. So, you know, it's not very long to build up a huge animosity with an inmate. You know, I'm gonna get you. You know.
But it have to be it has to be serious, like beef between her and the inmate for him to actually kill her.
Like, it would have to extraordinary. Reason and motive. There would have to be something very significant that and surely that would publicly have come out now. It was a gangland thing. There were drugs involved, or that, you know, we know
there be whispers
there's
around
nothing.
The prison, anyway.
There were whispers around the prison. There be whispers in the community. We have none of that. No. So I'm at a loss. I'm at a loss.
Then one other thing. Like the car thing was always very like kind of pivotal to me because there's no sightings of her in the Old Bawn Shopping Centre after like 9:15. After like the last time she goes out of her house, say 9:10. There's no sightings of her in the Old Bawn Shopping Centre 9:15, 9:20.
Nor the sighting of her standing outside at a certain uncertainty about was she standing at the bus stop or just standing outside Bridget Burke's. And then I think I mentioned the case of she appears to be walking in the opposite direction. She's walking from home to Bridget Burke's, but it's after another eyewitness has said no, she was actually in the square around that time.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, there's no eyewitnesses to say, because like Bridget Burke's, it's a local pub.
Yeah, people are off work.
Where's the locals who said, Patricia? Oh, sure, yeah, she came in here around 9 o'clock on December the 23rd. Yeah, she was in here.
No, it's mad.
So there's no... So I don't have any evidence or reason to believe she went into Bridget Burke's to meet anybody.
And then just one other thing actually on the shops. Like, what time would the shops have closed at? Was it not 9? No? Or would they open a bit later?
I would imagine maybe Christmas at that time, even as far back as 1991. Yeah, you might have had shops open till 9 or maybe 10 o'clock, the absolute latest. But still, but again, you see, this is why I go back to. I want to head up to the chipper, or I want to head up to the takeaway. That's fair enough at 9 or 10 o'clock because they're going to be open. What? I want to head up to a small shopping centre, literally, and there were less shops then than I've shown. I want to head up there to buy kids Santa hats, at 9, 10 o'clock at night. So I think, I don't know where that detail has come from, but I think it's actually been conflated with stuff she did earlier that day, which suggests to me when she went out the last time in the evening, it had nothing to do with Santa hats. There was another reason. She was meeting somebody, or she was just going for a takeaway, or whatever, or going to the chipper, or whatever, or she was meeting somebody. But I don't buy into the Santa hats nonsense. It just doesn't add up. Not at that time of the night. Maybe if it was 6 or 7 o'clock, maybe.
Yeah. Square
still being open, but I can't reconcile that. It's something's doesn't work for me there. 2013. I'll just read these words. It's something I came across. This came out of the 2013 GSR. This is the Garda Serious Case Review team, and their appeal in the 2013. I think that was when the second reconstruction was done. From Detective Superintendent Christy Mangan, who worked on this case. There are people out there who know exactly what happened to Patricia on that particular day. That's a very firm thing for Christy Mangan to say.
Quite direct, yeah.
Those persons have information in their possession. He knows that. They know that. They have held that since 1991, and what I would say, in order to give answers to the Doherty family, I would ask them to impart this information to us as investigators, no matter how small they think the information they have. Let us decide on the relevance of that and investigate it in order that we can solve the murder of Patricia Doherty.
Interesting.
I guess before we finish up, Kieran, any final thoughts on this case?
No, just actually quite similar to the Antoinette Smith case.
Yeah, very similar.
DNA.
And maybe something in the future comes out of the DNA. Yeah.
Well, interesting words there from Christy Mangan.
Yeah, very, very precise and direct words. He's clearly knows, this isn't just casual. He knows the people he's directing that at. And we've privately discussed that sense and feedback we got back from authorities we asked questions of, that there was a degree of stonewalling within the community at the time.
I've read that as well.
Yeah.
Actually, Sarah McInerney's book, she mentioned that a detective said basically everybody they kind of went to, they just got stonewalled.
Yeah, and there's a reason why. There's a reason why. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna finish up now. Like all these cases, we'd like to offer you more than perhaps you feel we've offered you, but I hope we've clarified the case much more and went into far more details than you'll generally get when we go into these cases. Kieran, thank you again for joining me. Kieran will no doubt be joining us again for the next case. We'll decide on what we cover next and what we feel is best relevant. As I said, links to Kieran and what he does, Ireland's Vanishing Triangle, his group and Facebook, all in the description wherever you see this video and podcast.
Thanks, Mick. Yeah.
Thank you again, Kieran. I'll just leave you with thanking you all for joining Kieran and myself in this episode of Radio Espial. As always, I always say it, if there's an update and I feel it's relevant and appropriate, of course I'll do it, but I'm not going to do just a video update just for the case of doing a video update. So God bless, and we'll see you all in the next episode. Take care, everyone.
Great, thanks.